This is a Pele Media podcast.
Welcome back to Goonies Minute, everybody. Goonies Minute is the fan podcast where we explore the 1985 classic film Goonies minute by minute. I'm Brady.
And this is Chris.
And we are here to explore minute number 24 today before I go see a doctor about this sore throat that just seemingly will not go away.
Yeah, I know. You sound a little bit better, but
yeah,
you know, when you live the nightlife like Brady does,
sitting around editing podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. Podcasts, and you know, it can happen. It can happen to the best of them.
It can happen to the best.
You know, do you ever realize that how now, not necessarily in this environment, but I have a friend of mine that's a DJ, and he always has a hardline mic, and then he has two wireless mics.
Yeah. And
whether it's being karaoke or whatever, and he never lets anybody use his hardline mic because he used to, and what happened is that he would get sick so often. But think about how many germs were going into those mics.
Oh, yeah.
On a regular basis. I know that's not the situation here because you don't have that many people coming in here, but just made me think of that situation he was telling me about. He always never lets anybody touch his hardline mic because he doesn't want the germ situation.
It's a very good call.
You know, so.
Absolutely.
But without further ado, let's get into the minute.
Let's do it. In the previous minute, we saw the four boys tie up Brand, unscrew his bike tires, and take off on their adventure. At 24 minutes, we see Mrs. Walsh and Rosalita entering the house to find Brand tied up on the floor. After not having any help from his mom, Brand pleads for Rosalita to help him up. Rosalita awkwardly rushes by. At 24 minutes and 35 seconds, we see the Goonies ride their bikes past the Astoria Museum. Mikey's dad waves to them from the front porch as he lowers the flag. At 24 minutes and 48 seconds, Brand rushes out of the house and down to his bike. He only makes it a few feet before realizing that his tires are completely out of air. And thus ends minute 24 of the Goonies. So we start this minute off with, it's, you know, kind of the middle of the same shot that we left off in the last minute, and we are seeing the guys take off on their bikes to go start the quest, and the camera is sweeping over to see everything that they are going on that quest to save.
And you hear, Goonies!
Yeah.
Which I never caught in the movie.
I don't think it's not in the actual song, I don't believe, but for the movie they had
Goonies!
Cyndi Lauper. Yeah. Kind of
That's kind of it sounds like.
No, it's just like that.
Basically, it sounds like they took kids that were half the age of the actual Goonies and made them say, Goonies!
So you don't think it's Cyndi Lauper?
That's who it is.
I don't know. It could be a little choir.
Why is it that never crossed this Neanderthal brain of mine?
Good question.
But if it's not in her original song where they say, hey, Cindy, we need you to say Goonies, I guess it was her. Maybe.
I know that for that song, I think they kind of not pushed her around a lot, but they had a lot of studio demand. And that was probably one of them because they made her... but they changed the title from Good Enough to Goonies Are Good Enough. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense. This is a big investment. They want this song to represent the movie and get as much exposure for the movie as they could. So I understand from a business
standpoint. That's probably
her.
You know,
maybe.
We'll see.
So anyway.
Anywho.
So, yeah, what I'm saying is that we get this great sweeping shot, epic shot of Astoria. The whole reason that these guys are taking off in the same shot, to begin with, is to go save everything. Right after that, we see Rosalita and Mrs. Walsh come in and find Brand just tied up and helpless on the floor. And for years, it's always been like, is there a miscommunication, like some kind of breakdown here? Why is Rosalita not helping him?
But why is the mother so clueless?
Because it's Mrs. Walsh.
Yeah, but that just, it's like...
She doesn't...
She I don't know.
She's just so absent-minded, and so she's
yeah, you're right.
Very busy.
You're right.
The moms have a lot going on. But Rosalita, I am now, after studying this movie way too much, am seeing that she probably thinks this is one of those things that Mouth was talking about.
I mean,
she's terrified.
Rosalita's scared of these people. She don't want to fool with it. She don't want her hands dirty with any of this.
Yeah, and as far as she knows, that's exactly what this is.
Yeah.
He fell right out of the attic.
One of those sex toys that Crystal Beth was talking about.
So, and then we get to finally meet Mr. Walsh.
Right,
mysterious
right.
Mr. Walsh. We've had so much build-up, so much talk about him, And our introduction to this like meek
outside
little guy.
his museum, taking the flag down,
trying to not let the flag like hit the ground, and he's
doesn't think anything of Mikey going at 100 miles an hour on the bike.
So here's my thing: they spent so much time building up Mr. Walsh. I mean, so much time. There's been such emphasis on him. The general aesthetic of this movie so far has been kind of comes from who this guy is, and by that I mean like nautical theming all over.
But his actual body is such a small.
He's this meek and kind of nerdy.
But it's just a
guy.
small. But he doesn't even play a large part. His idea, the idea of him and everything he stands for is a huge part. But his actual being a part physically is not.
Do you find that strange? I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. Very much so. And I'm going to tell you this. You wouldn't think about it as much watching the movie just as a regular layperson, not as experts such as ourselves. But no, seriously, breaking it down minute by minute, you see how much more his story is a part of this, which makes you think even more why he wouldn't be a little bit, like even like when he would, like showing him come home and Brant maybe having called him and briefed him on what he thinks that they're going to do. Like, hey, we were looking at this map we found in your attic. They start talking about treasure, and then Mr. Walsh, oh my gosh, everybody that's gone for that treasure's been killed or been lost, or I used to try to find that treasure. You think maybe something like that would have added to the story?
I think added too much.
Maybe so.
And I think that would have been cool. If we were going to be getting a little bit more comprehensive and large-scale story, I can see the father playing a bigger part, like you said, physically, which was an interesting term. But we don't. We have too much movie already to follow. And the crux.
And maybe they just don't want. Maybe they don't want you thinking about the dad in terms of
is he going to
picturing him or anything, or is he going to come save them?
Yeah, which is
not the point of what they want.
And that would have been setting that up. I think
right.
If they introduced the like you were saying, coming home and suddenly being worried and everything, like another story element would be the dad chasing the Fratellis, or chasing the kids, and just too much. It just would have been too much. So I like the fact that we get all the buildup of the dad. Then we see him, and then it's kind of dropped.
And the dad seems like you're right. He seems like such a wimp.
He just seems like a.
I mean, he's just one of those. I don't know, just weak-minded dads that's won over by the mom. Hey,
that's how it is sometimes.
But hey,
So anyway, that's Mr. Walsh. We go sailing right by, and he's waving. He's trying not to let the flag hit the ground or something.
What is the deal with these people? Is it supposed to be funny? When they mispronounce words, there was booty traps and then booby, and then hyperventriloquating.
Yeah.
And then there was something else that somebody said.
Yeah, I mean, Mikey.
What was Mikey? Yeah, it's like
all throughout.
That's cute. I don't know. That's cute.
Yeah,
I guess it is.
I'm assuming maybe that's
interesting.
I didn't catch it till right now. And I love how Brant, in this moment of panic and rush, he still has to take the time to correct someone for what they're saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's
and then she calls him Brandon again when he's running out.
Yeah.
Of course, I say again. She probably always calls him Brandon. And then right at the end of the minute, he notices his tires and he's about to flip out.
Yeah.
And what does she say to him? Don't. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. If you better come back with him, or I'm gonna hire Krishna. And then he says, Harry Carey. What in the world is that?
You never heard of Harry Carey?
I know Harry Carey, the announcer. I have just been educated by Brady. I had no idea what that term meant, and I'm familiar with a lot of that stuff, but. Yeah,
so
not that.
Here's my thing. I'm looking at some information from the movie, and it looks like the mother says something that is misworded, and Brand's response is that's Harakiri. Now, unless we're completely just misreading this whole thing, I have no idea what the hell he or she is referencing to. If you don't come home without the kid,
maybe kill yourself.
Kill yourself.
I mean, that's basically what she's saying.
I think
based on what we just looked at the definition of that.
Jesus,
which is crazy.
Yeah. And this movie has kind of gotten edgy and touched on some stuff that you didn't think a kid's movie would.
That's basically what he's saying.
But that's almost her saying, if you don't find him, don't come home, kill yourself.
Yeah.
Disembowel yourself.
Yeah.
And just for anybody who's not familiar with what we pronounce Harry Carey, it's more harakiri. The definition for it is a ritual suicide of disembowelment by sword, formerly practiced in Japan by samurai as an honorable alternative to disgrace or execution. So she's basically saying, if you don't come home, disembowel yourself, you know.
Yes, and
It's
again,
a lot to handle.
she is definitely tougher than her husband.
Yeah, and it's really being enforced, and we never go back to that.
Yeah.
We've seen so many examples of her just being completely, you know, overruling and really out of line, and then we get to see Mr. Walsh, like in the very next shot, or previous shot, and the filmmakers have gone really out of their way to show what of kind of a, I don't want to say pushover, but just like, you would not think that this guy would be married to that woman.
No,
And-
but then again,
And it never goes anywhere.
I don't know. You sometimes see those opposites a lot,
That is true. That is very true.
you know.
So I am very interested to see if at
But
one
you know
point...
what? I could see Mr. Walsh being one of those bosses that is a total prick, and like he's like really because he gets bossed around at home. A lot of times I've seen
taken
that.
out,
I've had those bosses where they're so difficult to work for. They're so controlling. They're so it's just awful, and yet when they go home and they're around their wife, they are a whipped boy.
You've seen him? Okay.
I've seen this before, and I think he's just like that.
So it's
Just what I think.
it seems so deliberate that I'm wondering if this was a bigger thing that Spielberg and Chris Columbus, who we haven't really mentioned either. I'm wondering if there was in a prior draft of the script, there might have been so much more about the mother and the father and this whole thing that they're very deliberately setting up that they have since taken out of the script and just forgot to take out all of this.
Could be,
Or
we'll never know.
went back on trying to build it up. Well, I guess we'll never know.
And we might know one day. I don't know.
Maybe we'll have Steven Spielberg as a special guest on Goonies Minute. Probably not. All right. On that note, that is all that I have for this minute. How about you?
That's it for me.
Okay, good deal. Well, everybody go out and have a great weekend, and hopefully by the time we reconvene here on Monday, my voice will be back to normal, but it's not going to be quite as sexy. So,
No.
Yeah.
It would never be as sexy as the raspy voice that you have right now.
Thank you, Chris. That's why I have Chris around, everybody. So, all right. Well, with that said, this is Brady,
And this is Chris.
and we're here to remind you that Goonies
Never say die.
never say die. Goonies Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the show, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us at GooniesMinute.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute, and at Instagram at GooniesMinute. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com. You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at patreon.com/PeleMedia. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/PeleMedia and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/PeleMedia.